And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of Outdoor Journal Radio.
Well, howdy, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Angelo Viola. He is the Peter Bowman.
Howdy,
The
everybody,
Bowrod.
and Angelo. Howdy. The Bowrod.
The Bowrod.
Came up back to get that Napanee. I got that nickname of Napanee from my buddy JB. I don't know how he came up with it. He just one day, he just said, we were up working out in the Universal Machine, and he says, "Hey, Bowrod."
What
I said, what the hell is that? He says, well, you like to hunt, so we're going to bow and arrow, and you like fish, and you like a fishing rod. He says, you're Bowrod.
I thought the bow was bow of the bowman.
No, he put it as the hunting and fishing of it. Yeah.
As well as the usual cast of characters, Vova, Nick, and Dean.
Come on now.
Making all of this wonderful magic appear every week.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah.
Wonderful program today. Just to sort of give you the main subject matter. Later on, we'll be joined by a good friend of ours. His name is Ted Putnam, and he owns what might be...
Handsome, look at him. He's
he is a devil, isn't he?
Something else.
Debonair as well. What could argue, I don't know whether it's arguable or not. I guess somebody will argue with it. It could be the best small lake walleye fishing factory on the planet.
Yeah?
Hawk Lake.
Yeah.
Could be. The reason he's on the program today is because episode 102 that we produced a few weeks ago, that some of you hopefully have listened to already. If not, I urge you to go back to it. We had a special guest by the name of Paul Radomski on. He still is a scientist, biologist, doctor of fish, whatever you want to call him, who wrote a fascinating book called...
Doctor of Fish, I love it.
He's a fishologist, man.
Doctor of Fish.
That wrote a book called Walleye, A Beautiful Fish of the Dark. And he was on the program, and we talked about what went into publishing this book, writing it, and all the different things about it. And he came up with some stuff. He told us, and we were both in shock.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that was his philosophy on fish management. And that's well and good, but a few weeks later, after it actually went up or dropped, I guess they call that dropping, don't they, Dean?
Yeah, it's called a drop.
That's
what the kids call it.
Now I'm going to start calling it drop.
The kids.
I want to be cool.
That's what the kids call it.
Drop. I want to. So when it dropped, our good friend Ted Putnam responded to it immediately and said, "Holy smokes, where did you find this character?" Because Ted has some great practical experience, 10, 12, 15 years.
He's probably got more practical experience not being a biologist, but just in the field than anybody, probably. Because he's got one subject area and one subject fish. You know what I mean? Boom.
And he had some things to dispute about this book. And he went, by the way, he bought the book and read it later on and said to me, wow, what a fascinating gentleman this guy was. Anyways, he's going to be on the program a little later on, joining us to talk to us about what he's going to dispute about that wonderful publication.
Stick around for this one, people, because Ted is very knowledgeable, and it's about walleye, and it's about big walleye. We all like to learn about that. So,
and he takes no prisoners, so that you're...
No, he's good. Know. He's good.
Fishing Canada television show. The new season is nicely underway. Season 38.
Come on now.
I was watching
an
interview program recently, and the main host of the show was talking to the guest, and the guest was a actor who had been doing a series on television. And they were talking about the fact that they had just produced their 250th episode. And I thought, holy smokes, that's a lot of programming, 250.
And then you looked into our archives,
and it obviously prompted me to think, well, you idiot, like you guys have done over 600, and
is that what we are, over 600? Oh my God.
630 some odd.
Holy.
And that's not counting ODJ episodes.
Wow.
That's FNC only.
Yeah.
That's why we are now old.
Oh yeah.
Or we look old. We're actually middle age, the two of us.
We're 22 each.
It's a hard life.
It's a hard life. All that sun on the face. You can see the redness all over. She's a tough one, folks. A lot of whiskey at nights,
Oh, there's a few of those.
Smoking cigarettes and coughing and wheezing.
We asked
We don't smoke cigarettes, everybody.
We asked, no, stop it. We asked we asked you if you've been watching the new season, which just premiered in January of this year, and if you noticed anything new, different, likes, dislikes, and let us know. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard anything yet, have we? Has anybody responded?
Has there been anybody?
I've heard a lot from like people who I know who watch it and they love it.
Right, but nobody's actually written into it to us.
There's some stuff on YouTube I can pull up, like all the comments and stuff. People are really liking it.
I would like to know. I would like to hear from you, if possible. Just give us your opinion on some of the things that have changed on the show. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the look of it. I've been watching them. I mean, you got to remember, folks, here sitting here in this office before it even hits the airwaves, Ange and I, and Dean to an extent, Volva for sure, we see it so many times, just like, oh my God, over and over, looking for this, looking for that, and you know what I mean, and try to get it perfect. And then, but even then, I watch it at home on the big TV, and it looks so good on a TV like that.
I just watched the episode you and Steve did.
Yeah, it was on the weekend. It was just on
this weekend.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, we've seen it a million times in the post production period.
Yep.
Totally different show when I watched it this weekend.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's neat to see.
And not that I didn't
screen.
like it before, but like you guys took me on this great adventure, and like I felt your pain when I needed to, and you made it. It was perfect. I love the show. I love that episode.
Yeah.
So let us know. Let us know what you think as well. Fishing Canada, the store, free shipping still. Holy smokes!
Look at that stuff, eh?
I never know which way to turn. How's that? Outdoor Journal. And we have. These are hoodies. There's sweatshirts. There's t-shirts. There's pants, sweatpants, toques. I mean, there's.
How about the plaid? Is the plaid available yet? Plaid, with the logo on it?
I know it's here. I just don't know whether it's not up. I'm almost afraid to say it's up on the store because I don't know.
I know exactly where you're sitting in this situation.
I don't know.
Okay, enough said.
People far more intelligent than me should be answering those questions.
I thought you were going to be saying running the show.
Well, there's that too. I want to thank everybody, by the way, for making this Outdoor Journal podcast what it is today. It's a highly, for the life of me, I don't know why, a highly respected outdoor product, very well received, highly recognized, and we owe it all to you for making that happen, because if we didn't have people downloading it and liking it, and what else do they do, Dean? Help me on this one.
They subscribe to it. They put it on their Instagram, and
that too.
They do that, yeah.
And it builds in our ratings, right? Because we're getting up there, we're like number 2 there to the meat eater. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
In a short time that we've done this. So
so I want to thank all of you for making that happen, because, like I said, without you, we would be still, I don't know, pumping gas at the local Shell station.
Did you do that aside from your dad's garage? Did you ever pump gas anywhere else, like for a job?
DX Oil.
DX Oil.
Do you even know what that is?
No, I wouldn't
DX Oil was on Highway 2, just before you get into town here.
Okay.
What's there now? It's gone, but I think Coffee Plaza with a big coffee shop is in there now. But that used to be DX Oil, and I worked there for probably, I don't know, till they caught on to me and fired me. Probably for half a year.
Putting gas in your own car.
Well, there was a bit of that too. I have to be honest. You know,
jerry
like,
cans.
Listen, you're young.
Just leaving with jerry cans at night. Hey, who is that guy?
I don't want to get in that, just in case the folks from that company are still alive.
Exactly, DX, yeah.
Listener feedback, Mr. Bowman.
Listener feedback comes from @MitchC5538 via YouTube. In response to episode 103, are warm winters hurting our fisheries? So we did that in episode 103 of the Outdoor Journal podcast. And Mitch's thought was, I think the gradual warming could hurt rivers and lakes in the southern U.S., but might benefit northern lakes and rivers, at least for bass. They grow better in warmer water. I mean, you can't dispute that, what he's saying,
Well,
right?
certainly largemouth. I don't know whether I'd agree with that for smallmouth.
Right.
Right? Because I think they may be affected. Largemouth, and he's talking as if he is in the U.S. He's talking about rivers in rivers and lakes in the southern U.S. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming
it could hurt. Gradual warming could hurt the rivers and lakes because the southern U.S. obviously being Florida, Texas,
northern lakes
et
and rivers, at least for bass, they grow better in warmer water. So he's talking largemouth.
Yeah, he's talking bass for
nothing
sure.
Could be farther from the truth for smallmouth. In fact, that would probably be any of the rivers that we've got. And by the way, here's something. If you live in southern Ontario and you're near pretty much any tributary that dumps into Lake Ontario, or any of the Great Lakes, you probably aren't aware of the fact, unless you live on one of those rivers or tributaries, that most of them have a great population of smallmouth bass. Mm-hmm. That very few people fish.
Yep.
And it's a great place to go with kids and have them, indoctrinate them into fishing by having them catch their first smallmouth.
Right.
Because I can't think of a better fish that a kid could catch for the first time and get totally hooked on this thing we call fishing.
In a river off the shore with a bit of current to help that smallie.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great smallmouth river is the Saugeen.
Oh my God!
God, I did that boat trip with there one time. It was unreal. We just did a rowboat ride, and it was just it was insane.
Yeah, any of these rivers.
These you got to remember too. When he's talking about the southern, when he talks about go back to largemouth bass, they're very adaptable creatures. Mm-hmm. So Ange and I have fished as far south as Mexico for largemouth, and I'll tell you what, that water down there is pea soup almost all the time. So in the 80s, we were there and the water temperatures were in the 80s. These largemouth had no problem living in that.
That's why I say.
A little farther north, like Texas, they get warm waters, but they get waters in the 40s too. You know, comes wintertime and the temperatures drop around the areas and all that stuff. The largemouth, they're adapt.
Florida,
the same thing. Go all the way up to Kenora, Lake of the Woods. Yeah. Right now, that water is 32, 33 degrees. They're living in that, and then it goes to the 70s in the summer. So they're a very adaptable creature, a largemouth bass. But Ange says about the smallmouth, that might be a little different of a story. They can handle it too, but maybe not as well. Trout, that warming on trout, not good at all, right? So.
No, and there's species that do well, species that don't.
Yeah,
I think we ought to ask Ted that question. If he's in northwestern Ontario, cold water fishery, predominantly cold water. Mm-hmm. We ought to ask him, if I can remember, if he has any concerns or if he's noticed any change in his fishery due to climate change or temperature
because he
change.
Keeps track of a lot of stuff, so that'd be a good one. Yeah.
Am I wrong here, Dean, in saying that we're a little out of sync on these scripts this wonderful day?
Why is that?
Well, because we just did the listener feedback, and now we're going to go back to podcast highlights, and then we're going to go back to Fishing Canada news.
I think that's how we do things.
I normally think we do the feedback portion.
Why are you disagreeing with Dean?
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying. Hey, listen,
you're challenging Dean. You're challenging
Dean. We have the
tape. Yeah.
We'll go back and check the tape.
I got a feeling that Dino just copies and pastes, just has that.
Yeah, I do.
Out and in, out and in, out and in.
That is totally unusual. But anyways, podcast network highlights, because we have a podcast network.
Come on now.
Well,
come on now.
For those of you who didn't know, you now know. And the highlight this week is the Ugly Pike podcast, which if you're not listening to it, you're really not into big predator fishing, whether it's pike or muskie.
It's mostly muskie, but they do everything.
They do everything. The episode this week is episode 63 and 4.
163, 164.
Well, I meant that.
Yeah.
People knew that.
Okay.
That's a given.
It's just a number, right? Who cares about it?
As if they're going to go search for
exactly.
They're going to go search for Marlon Prince.
Correct.
Who is a guest on that 2 episodes, by the way.
2 episodes.
Marlon Prince, a good friend of ours that we fished with in New Brunswick, muskie angler. Hey, look at that good-looking guy.
Oh, hey. He's got a green bass there. What is that?
That's
look at the color of that sucker.
Oh man, those are different, eh? Those fish down there.
They are. Look at the belly on that. That is a New Brunswick muskellunge right there, folks, and they get big.
Anyways, a fascinating episode on Ugly Pike featuring Marlon Prince, who helped us shoot those episodes.
Marlin is a very deadly stick out there. That's for sure.
Boy.
He knows his stuff on the muskies.
Hey, fishes do. Okay, that's right. But
deadly
I
stick.
went to the bar, and I'll tell you, I found out he had a whole other side there with that.
Marlin with that deadly stick work of his, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I got a dead stick.
Eat dead, senor.
Oh, my.
Maybe you wanted to explain to folks what "eat dead, senor" means.
I don't understand your Spanish, my friend.
All right.
No comprende.
He talks about the politics of muskie fishing, especially as it pertains to the eastern part of the country.
And there's a lot of it there.
And there's a lot of
Oh, my
politics
God.
going on.
It ain't good.
Mind-blowing.
It ain't
It's a
good.
great interview. You want to check it out. Ugly Pike Broadcast, episodes 163 and 164, featuring Marlin Prince.
Come on now.
Indeed.
Carry on.
Do we
Mr.
want to do both stories here quickly?
I don't know. It's all out of order to me.
We got
so
a couple of news stories
you
today,
seem
and
to be
this one is,
comfortable with it.
I'm not comfortable with it, but I'll do what Dean makes us do, right? He's the boss, right?
Yeah, I
so
know.
this is a
now.
weird news story. This
For
is
now.
one of the is titled Striped Bass Given Cataract Surgery Live Longer. So
Right, first of all, somebody had to think this up.
exactly.
Somebody at some point,
Biologists.
and you know, we've come up with
You got good eyes.
especially walleye. In fact, that episode that you and Steve produced that aired this weekend
showed
on
one with the
the
blind
Fishing
eye.
Canada Network, Coast to Coast Global Television Network, 8 a.m.
And it's available now on YouTube
Come on
as
now.
well, that episode that Angelo's talking
and
about.
Sportsman's Channel, as well as WFN. But anyways, that particular channel, you guys caught a walleye that could have used this surgery because it had like an opaque coating on
we
the
guessed it was blind in the eye, but maybe it was just, maybe it just had a cataract in it. Maybe, I don't know what it was. But now, for the life of me, we won't get into this story, but for the life of both of us, when we first saw this, we thought, what kind of group, what kind of funding does it take to get the biologists to work on cataracts on striped bass? Like, why?
Okay, so the only thing that would make sense to me, and it's not here, but I've got to say, the only thing that would make sense to me is that maybe they're using fish.
It wasn't just stripers either. It says,
No, it's just
including
fish.
striped bass.
Yeah, including
Okay,
striped
11
bass.
fish. Okay.
It's a fascinating story, by the way. It's a great read. You need to go to fishingcanada.com and check this out in the news section. But the only thing that would make sense to me is that they're using this research to help them better understand the whole cataract surgery thing as it applies to humans.
Guinea pigs, a rat lab,
Not saying-
sort of speaking.
Sort of. But otherwise, like how would you apply this? How would you apply this to fish?
They were all 10 years, over 10 years old. So depending on how long a striper lives. If a striper lives for 20 years and she is a prime spawner at 10 or 11 and that their eyesight helps them, maybe that might be the only thing I could think of. Like, you know what I mean? Like otherwise, why?
It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
It's
That's
ridiculous. And with all due respect to the folks who were in this, I'm sure that you worked hard. Dr. Claire Verneau-Grosset, professor of zoological medicine at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at University de Montreal. Okay, I get it. No, enough said.
So their results show that 73% of the operated fish resumed feeding, regained normal body condition, and appeared clinically normal. The median survival time was around 1 year, which is a positive outcome for fish of this age, she said.
Any input, Dean, on this one?
I don't know who put the money towards it. It seems strange to me. And they only lived 1 year. It said the average fish lived 1 year. So I don't know if
the median survival time was around 1 year.
Okay. That doesn't bother me as much as if you're doing this for fish, which I don't think they are, but if it is intended as a program that will enhance the quality of life for fish as they get on in age, like that just does not make sense to me.
But it also doesn't make sense to me that why would you use fish to study for human problem?
Because maybe there's something similar between.
Well, you'd think that maybe it'd be a mammal versus a fish, like something that has air, lives in the air and the atmosphere versus under the water. I don't know.
fascinating story. If you like these funky stories, you got to read this one.
We're full of funk, that's for sure.
Oh, boy. It's on fishingcanada.com, the news section.
Yes, sir.
Of it. Also in news, Maine study conclude. What is this? All weird.
Dean gave us a couple of stories today. In case he said,
I didn't know which ones you'd like.
I love them all, buddy. Maine study concludes that fish are shrinking.
I know I'm shrinking, and I was never big to begin with. I was shrunk, and I'm shrinking more. Damn. Nobody's studying that shit, are they?
They're shrinking, Peter. Fish apparently are shrinking.
Well, you and I, we've noticed that a lot.
Okay.
Everyone we catch seems to be getting smaller. We can't catch a 2-pound bass anymore. Damn it.
It's part of an international project with 16 other research centers.
Okay.
This particular one is out of the Maine ecology. It's University of Maine ecology professor Brian McGill. He helped do this study. And they analyzed the body size trends of numerous plants and animals worldwide from 1960 to 2020 using data from the Biotime database. And they have concluded, ladies and gentlemen, fish are shrinking. There.
Oh, my.
Again, I have to ask, like as our previous one, is why? Why are they?
Because they need. Look, hey, all right. For somebody has been collecting data from 1960 to 2020. Otherwise, they couldn't have done this research. Somebody had to be collecting this stuff. So whoever collected this stuff was getting paid. Somebody paid them to collect this. This doesn't fall out of trees. So there's a data center that's got all this information. So now we have another group, and by the way, they're all over the world, who's getting paid to collect all this data and come up with the fact that fish are shrinking.
So they're trying to find out why so that they can combat that, I'm assuming. So that we can't have fish shrinking. We need fish growing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So maybe there's this. Okay, so the silver lining to this is once it's all done and tabulated,
we need to
now we're going to do a study on why
inject our bait fish with super proteins that ultimately build these big muscular.
like that.
There's nothing big and muscular in that entire picture. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Oh my God! I tell you,
that's a shrinking fish. By the way, that fish is reappearing in another episode this year. That little for those listening, those people listening, that's a picture of a walleye that I caught on KB Lake. It's about 2 inches long, maybe 3 inches long, something like that. That would be fresh out of the womb, wouldn't it be? Pretty much.
We should.
I got him. I got him.
I need to drink up now.
No, that's that year fish for sure. You know, that same year I got that in July or whatever.
Our guest that's coming on, he'll know a thing or two about those. We'll have to ask him about that size of fish.
Yeah.
He knows all good things. Anyways.
I don't think his fish are shrinking. We'll find that out too.
Well, they're definitely not shrinking, which is, you know, something he might want to dispute this story. I don't know. Ted's good at that stuff. See, now we go to the fan question, which normally that makes sense now, but it would be fan question along with the other one that we did earlier on with the fans.
Comment, the
comments.
we do them all.
But anyways, fan question this week.
You want me to do it? Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Comes from Stephen Anastasi. Is that right, Dench? Anastasi?
Anastasi.
From Ontario via email. info@fishingcanada.com or Facebook or Instagram if you want to do it that way. But what is the worst injury you have sustained while on location shooting a show?
Whoa, great question.
I know yours. I think I know yours already. I don't think I can't outdo yours. That's for sure. I can't outdo yours. I'd say
I've had a couple of them actually.
I've had a few.
What's yours?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Not an injury, but a mishap that we had one time. Oh, that bee in a tournament.
Yeah, that was bad.
A bee stung my ring finger. Yeah, a bee stung my ring finger and it swelled up so bad. They tried to cut the ring. It still got the cut mark on it. The girl in there, she was on her last 5 minutes of her shift and pissed off that I came in there. So she was digging. She was trying to break that ring off my finger, let alone saw it through. She was like, I got to go home. French girl. She was friggin' funny. And I was sweating like a pig, but my the reason I went in is because my finger was swelling on both sides of the ring, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the ring wasn't doing anything.
By the way, tell folks why you were swollen.
Stung by a white jacket, a white jacket. Wasp or hornet, whatever they call it. So that was.
And you had reached into
our bag, but it was a backpack we had underneath, and I thought a fish hook stuck me. I thought, geez, Ange, I got stuck by a hook. Then all of a sudden, this guy starts crawling around. He says, "Oh my God, I got stung!" And then all of a sudden, she just went for a shit.
Oh, like there was no.
It was brutal.
Like it was. I thought it was going to explode.
Yeah, it did look like it was going to explode for sure. And then eventually she tried. So you got to picture this. You got the little hand saw. It's a tiny little skill saw that you turn by hand. It's like a little wind-up clock. It's the most insane thing, and they have a hook it goes underneath the ring. So this is why your hand's all swollen up and sore. And they get it underneath there, and she's doing, and she's trying to go as fast as she can because she wants to get off her shift and all that. And finally, I said, whoa, stop, arrête. I said, arrête. She says, well, pourquoi? I says, give me that KY gel, baby. I did. And she was kind of cute, too.
Done. Thank you, Dean.
And I greased that son bitch up, and I just said, that's it. And I almost cried. I was just, and I'll remember this forever. She looks up and she goes, oh, you got it. That's all she said. You got it. Yeah, I got it. See you later, honey. Have a good weekend. So, anyways.
I remember that one. What else? What other?
Yours?
No, yours.
Oh, mine? I know I got, not an injury, but I caught laryngitis in Alberta right before a shoot. And that was bad because we were scheduled the next day. We were traveling to the next lake, Lesser Slave Lake. And I remember that forever. That we went to the hospital then too and got me in there because we wanted to be.
Is that when we got evacuated that night?
That's the same trip. I think that same trip.
The flood came and we got evacuated at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We had to get the hell out.
But anyways, that wasn't an injury, but it was a catastrophe because we had to go out. And then we went, okay. The next day I was getting a little better. The next day I got all kinds of meds. And so I said to Ange, okay, you carry the show and I'll just, every now and then I'll say, yeah, good one, buddy. Stuff like that or whatever like that. We got away with it and we couldn't really tell, but it was... yeah, but yours is the best.
Mine, if we're talking about the broken bones,
that was the broken bone.
We had just flown into a remote
Airedale.
lodge.
It was an Airedale location.
Yeah. And pilot dropped us off, and off he went. And was it the same day?
No.
Next morning.
No, because we were.
Next morning.
Yeah.
Early next morning, I broke an ankle, and I think we still had 4 or 5 days before the plane was coming back. So I kind of, I had some. I was going to say I survived it, but I had some help. The local camp dude.
He brought out a bag of pills that would have blown your mind. I think you could have filled a pillowcase with the pills that this guy had.
And from that day, we've always made sure to carry medication and
I don't think we have that kind of medication that he had, but
a kit, survival kit with us in case we get injured. But at that time, we weren't traveling with any. Thankfully, he had some medication that helped me through it because otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, we'd had a satellite phone and get you flown out of there because it was that bad. I mean, we were in a remote spot where the plane drops you off and says, "See you in 3 or 4 days," or whatever it is, and then it's all of a sudden, boom, he snaps his ankle.
So. The worst part about that, though, was that we were scheduled to get picked up from there and go into Betty McGee's place, Pine
Portage Lodge, yep.
Which was another fly-in. And so I was medicated all week. So for me, it didn't feel that bad.
Jack was with us on that whole
Jack
trip,
Summers
wasn't he?
From Radio World was with us.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel that bad. So I said, you know what? The hell with it, guys. Let's just go from here right into Betty McGee's place. Pine Portage, the hell with it. I'll tough it out. I'll be good. So that's what we did. And worst thing I could have done. When I finally got out of there, it was a high compound fracture high up on the ankle, which are the worst ones you could possibly do. So I was in one of those immobilizing
cast or whatever.
Cast,
it was big.
Forever to keep me from moving it. But yeah, that happened out in the field. That was the worst.
The best is when we got to Betty's place.
Oh my God!
The dock is like 200 feet long. I'm not. It seems like 200 yards long. It's the longest dock in existence in the north, for sure. Question. And the float plane, obviously, comes to the very end of the dock, and they tease it up to the end of the dock. So Anne's got 200 feet to go just to get on ground. So they brought out a golf cart and said, sat him in the golf cart and he carried the gear and he went around the golf cart the whole week. Back and forth. He couldn't walk. So it was, oh my God, that was funny. And then we had to stop at the Sault Ste. Marie Hospital, right? After we got out.
Sault Ste. or Thunder Bay?
No, Sault Ste. Marie. We were on our way home.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Anyways, it was a disaster, but that's the worst. I've had lots of hooks.
Oh, you used to be the
that
king.
I've had to go into hospital for several times on
hooks in
location.
your body parts. They just
the worst one, though, the worst hook incident I ever had is on the Red River. You might not even recall.
I was there.
Were you there for that
And your
one?
leg?
No, my thumb.
Oh, yeah.
And what had happened was we were using these big Siwash hooks for these cats. These cats are massive. These are 20 to 30, 35. In fact, I caught a 35-pounder on that shoot. They're massive fish. And so you got these big circle hook type of thing, and they are razor sharp. And so I got this cat, and I got a pair of needle nose pliers, and the hook won't come out. And I'm pushing down on the shank of the hook maybe with the needle nose pliers, and I got my thumb kind of like that, and I slipped, and that sharp point ripped right through my thumb, right down to the bone, about an inch worth of gash. And I went to the hospital for that. That was a bad one, man. I remember that. But I finished the episode. I don't know if you remember that. That was in the middle of that big 34-pound cat. Mm-hmm. So obviously we went to the hospital in Winnipeg.
Yeah,
I guess that would make sense.
The closest where Selkirk is where we were, right?
Yeah, we were in Selkirk. And got all stitched up and bandaged up and came back and finished the episode with a Band-Aid on my thumb. And the only people who really notice it is us. When you see that episode, you'll see that I start without a Band-Aid for the first part of the show, and then I got a Band-Aid at the end.
That's so true.
So it's kind of cool.
Good. We've had lots of hook injuries for sure.
Not lately, knock on wood.
No, you're right. Knock on wood lately. We've been pretty good.
You know what that is? Old age experience. We're getting better, buddy. Think about it.
I'll take
We're
that.
getting better.
I'll take that.
We didn't know at the time. We're foolish young. We didn't know hooks all over the place.
Yeah,
We don't know.
with pliers. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Not now. The humble goldfish, everyone's favorite aquatic pet. It's small, easy to care for. What's there not to love?
Even the cat may be mesmerized by the color and movements of your aquarium friends. Goldfish are great at home, but don't let them loose.
Releasing goldfish or other domestic aquatic pets or plants into natural environments is harmful to both your pet and the planet.
Goldfish disrupt ecosystems by outcompeting native species for food and resources in degraded habitats. They contribute to algae blooms, they kill aquatic wildlife, and pass viruses and diseases contracted in aquariums to wild fish.
They could even live up to 40 years and grow as big as a football. Anglers, this is where you come in. If you find a goldfish at your local fishing spot, report it to the Invading Species Hotline or go online to eddmaps.com.
Remember to never dump your live bait into the water and risk spreading other aquatic invaders. Keep our lakes free from invaders and don't let them loose.
There's an adventure just outside these walls.
It's something you'll hate to leave and can't wait to get back to.
It's a place where memories are made and bonds are forged.
For some, it's hitting the trails. For others, it's a weekend at the lake. It's a place full of campfires and quality time.
This year, take some time to reconnect with friends, family, and nature. No matter what adventures await you, Coleman has the gear you need. Visit colemancanada.ca to gear up today.
The outside is calling.
Answer the call.
Back in 2016, Frank and I had a vision to amass the single largest database of muskie angling education material anywhere in the world.
Our dream was to harness the knowledge of this amazing community and share it with passionate anglers just like you.
Thus, the Ugly Pike podcast was born and quickly grew to become one of the top fishing podcasts in North America.
Step into the world of angling adventures and embrace the thrill of the catch with the Ugly Pike podcast. Join us on our quest to understand what makes us different as anglers and to uncover what it takes to go after the infamous fish of 10,000 casts.
The Ugly Pike podcast isn't just about fishing. It's about creating a tight-knit community of passionate anglers who share the same love for the sport. Through laughter, through camaraderie, and an unwavering spirit of adventure, this podcast will bring people together.
Subscribe now and never miss a moment of our angling adventures. Tight lines, everyone.
Find Ugly Pike now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
All right, as promised, our good friend Ted Putnam on the program. He's been on before. He is the owner of arguably the best walleye fishery on the planet in terms of a small lake. Yeah, and I use that with reverence. Yeah, no, it is. Hawk Lake, to me, is one of the best walleye fisheries on the planet.
And his lodge, Hawk Lake Lodge, is one of the best
we're going to talk
lodges,
about that. Welcome to the program, Teddy.
Thanks, guys. Good to be back.
Nice to have you. Nice to have you. You've been doing well?
You just got some big redfish, some big bull reds, didn't you?
Oh, man, I love catching 30-inch walleye, but when you catch 30-pound or 40-pound, big bull reds, we had a great time down in southern Louisiana. What a blast. Just a blast.
What prompted that? Was this a bucket list thing, or?
It's kind of a bucket list thing, and it was warm down there, and fishing flats, sight fishing for just monster fish. I've always wanted to do it, and, JetBlue had a sale, and away I went. It was great.
Nice.
Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I've been dying to ask you, and I keep forgetting, did you, in your wildest dreams, I want an honest answer here, did you ever think that once you got rid of your captain and arguably your second best centerman on that team, that they were going to go on another extraordinary run that might see them break another record? I'm talking about the Boston Bruins, obviously.
Of course you are. Yeah, I know that's kind of icing on the cake, right? We just thought this would be sort of a rebuilding year. Obviously, we got some great goalies, but it's been better than any of us could have expected, that's for sure.
I said, finally, the Leafs are going to kick some ass with the Bruins. Thank God. Bergeron's gone.
Oh, God.
No kidding. Congratulations,
good luck with that,
man. Good for you.
Yeah,
you gotta be
it's nice to be living in Boston.
No kidding. All right, so the reason Ted's here, we did an episode. It was actually episode number, Dean, I know you'll correct me. Dean is going to be episode 102.
There you go.
Come on now.
Thank you, Dean.
Look at that.
We had an interesting episode, and that gentleman was on more than just once as well. His name is Paul Radomski, and he was an author of a great book called Walleye, A Beautiful Fish of the Dark.
Now, he's a fisheries biologist, correct? Or no?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's some science involved here, which is great. But he came on and said some profound things that were in the book that at the time, if you go back and watch that episode, you'll see that both Pete and I were like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't too far down the road where our good buddy Ted Putnam reached out to us and said, what was that quack talking about?
He didn't call him a quack.
He did.
You made that up. You improvised.
He called him something. It might have been worse than quack. But anyways, he said...
Hey, Teddy, you just can't hold him back, can you? Hey, buddy? A good story. Angelo and a good story.
What is that all about? I've got field experience here that tells me that some of what Paul wrote about and said is just not true. And so we said, well, let's get Teddy on the show and let's debate it. Let's talk about it. And we even said on that episode, Ted, we know a guy who's got a body of water that might argue some of these facts about big fish and the need for culling some of those big fish. So here's your big opportunity. Tell us. Now, you've read the book, right? You've since gone out and bought the book and read it?
I actually have since gone out and bought the book, and I was skimming through it this weekend. Yes, there's some of the highlights. Good book, very detailed. He's definitely done great work. So that was. I appreciate you letting me know where I could find it. That was good. But let me first start out. I am not a scientist. I have done any statistical analysis. I didn't go to school and get a PhD in biology or fisheries management. I'm just a lowly lodge owner. So what I have really is kind of boots on the ground experience in a fishery for 26 years that I have tightly managed for 14 years. And what I found maybe a little different than maybe what other people have come up with in sort of theories and analyses. And I think it's actually very interesting, some of the things that I found versus what are some of the things you were talking about on your last podcast.
Okay.
All right, so let's jump into
let everybody, just for everybody, when we found out about Ted's Lake, we heard this is pretty much a trophy-only lake, or that's what you really go up for. Northwestern Ontario, where Ted is, he's close to Kenora, he's close to Lake of the Woods and that whole area. Normally, that's known as more numbers. The first perception is there's giant fish there, and yeah, there are, but it's a place where you can catch 200, 300, 16, 18 inches in a day, right? So that's the perception of when you hear a lake like Ted's, where we talk to Ted, and he says, "Oh, we don't get a whole lot of those. We get a lot of big ones, a lot of trophies, a ton of trophies. They're there." But so you got to remember that's when we heard this, we said, "Oh my God, we got to check this lake out." It was for our first trip, and sure as hell, we got there and we got giants, and we didn't catch small ones.
And what sold it for me, I watched the Linder episode shot up there.
Yeah.
And man, that put it over the top for me. So, like Pete said, we had to come up and experience it. Now, Pete said something interesting though about a number of fish. People going into northwestern Ontario expecting 100, 200 fish days, which are common, but I don't want to take away from the fact that, Hawk Lake isn't the only big lake fishery up in northwestern Ontario.
No.
There are a number of other lakes, and I think genetics may have a lot to do with it. In your case, I think it's a combination of genetics and really off-the-wall management, which is what you've done. And to let the folks know what Ted has done with Hawk Lake is you don't keep anything. Mm-hmm. Nothing. Zero. Not even a shore lunch. There's no retention of fish on Hawk Lake. And because you're the only operator on the body of water, is that correct?
Sure. And there's no public access either.
No public access. Which
in the summer. In the wintertime, they can access it, right?
In the winter, you can get in, but I would argue that you can do a lot less damage over the ice than you can if you're fishing it all summer long in a Pro V.
I agree.
So Paul states in the book that, in fact, we as managers, fish managers, should maybe take a different approach to managing walleye lakes, and that is that, maybe we should be taking out a few or some of the bigger fish and let the smaller fish grow that mid-range population, which is important in his book. It's important to maintain a nice balanced system. That doesn't happen on Hawk Lake. Like, we've fished it now, I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times. We've never caught a small walleye.
That's correct. We have never caught a small. The
Never.
smallest
Have you?
walleye, we probably caught a 4-pounder, be our smallest.
Maybe.
It's like,
Actually,
whoa, where'd that one come?
Couple of things. We're actually catching tons of small walleye now, tons, and I've got the numbers to back that up, which is pretty cool. But let's go through one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Your first comment was, or Paul's comment was, maybe it's a good idea to call some fish out based on whatever you want, slots or whatever, so you create a healthy fishery. And I just don't quite get that, because let's just put this into a different perspective. 150 years ago, there was no one touching these fisheries, and I bet you the fisheries were doing just great. So it's only when man comes in and starts screwing around where now all of a sudden we're having these conversations. So I don't understand how the fishery was great before we showed up, and now that we've showed up, we need to start calling fish out so we can make it more healthy. That makes no sense to me at all. Don't quite get that. In my case, it's completely hands off, and the fishery has rebounded exponentially, far exceeding my expectations. And I've got some neat numbers so we can talk about in different classes that I've been monitoring. It's been really cool.
All right. So you have zero retention on big fish, small fish, little in-between fish, et cetera, et cetera.
Is that every species, Ted? Pike, walleye, smallmouth, lake trout, whitefish, everything? Catch and release?
Across the board.
Across the board.
Wow.
Okay.
Which, listen, it makes sense to me.
Sure.
It makes total sense to me. But I'll be honest with you, after, this book came to light, you start questioning it. And certainly in other parts of the country, if not the province, we are experimenting with different types of management tools. You know, you mentioned slot limits. There's all kinds of things, and not one sort of standard rule right now.
It's all over the map.
I've never
right
seen
now.
it like this before.
Like, I don't know, Ted, if you know the Canadian regs or the Ontario regs where your lodge is in, but there's so many different regs just in walleye alone. And then you go to largemouth, smallmouth, you go to muskie. Yeah, every species is crazy. So you really got to know your regs.
Well, it kind of makes sense because you can't really have one size fits all anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, it's based on the region and the fishery and how much pressure it's getting. So I think you need to be creative in how you approach each one of those fisheries. And go from there. You can't just make a blanket statement, and that's for the entire province. That would never work.
Well, they tried that before. That's what it used to be, and now it used to be 6 across the board, right? 6 walleye and everywhere. All that. But now they've changed it, and thank God they did. You know what I mean? So
you mentioned small fish. When did you start noticing these small fish?
About 4 years ago, we started noticing them. And maybe you can answer this question because I don't understand why.
See that? He said, really speaking of small fish, then he asked us, right? So he's not a small fish guy. He's making fun. Yeah, we're experts of small fish.
Well, no. That's not what I mean. In fact, we started getting into them actually after dark. After the typical big bite has turned off, about half an hour after sunset, like all the little fish would start coming in. And I have no idea why that is. I'd love to talk to a biologist why that is. Maybe because the big fish have now stopped their feeding and now the little fish can get into some of these schools of bait. I don't know. But we literally could go out and just hammer, 12 to 15-inch fish nonstop, until either the bugs or, the darkness got to us. So that was pretty cool.
Or you're sitting in that nice little Narrows of yours at dusk, and you just pounded 32 10-pound walleye. Maybe they're done for the night, Ted. With all due respect, okay? Maybe you got them. Yeah. You got them all, and now the little guys have got a chance. They got a chance to start feeding. It's possible too.
That is possible. Otherwise, I would not have an answer to that. Like you would think they'd be the opposite. Those big girls would be right in that prime time, and dusk, right into the dark, the first hour or two of dark, and then we'll rest for it. But obviously, that's not the case on hawk, anyways, right?
I read something about that. About our perception of walleye is low light into dark and through the dark period, and then back right up to that early morning light. But I read something recently that kind of dispels that, and the prime time is that dusk period, as opposed to total darkness.
Oh, I believe that.
There's something
I believe that.
I'll pull it out. I'll find it, and I'll send it off to you, Ted. It's an interesting read.
You know what else? I'm just going to go off a little bit here in location. This year, I noticed, especially when we were doing this late season trophy walleye fishing on the Adolphus Reach, midday is the absolute best for the big girls. As soon as it got to 3 o'clock and started shut down. Gandhi, I don't know. You could see some stuff. It made no sense. But in the middle of the day with sun, it didn't matter what. But the middle of the day,
these
giants.
The fish that are traveling, or are these the local fish that you're talking about?
No, these are the travelers. These are the
travelers.
The spawners that are.
Maybe it has to do with that migration. Maybe during prime.
But the screen on the Garmin stayed exactly the same. You know what I mean? We saw them after just exactly what we were trolling through earlier. They just didn't bite at that perfect time in the morning and in the evening.
I have no idea.
That was bizarre. So
the older I get, the less I know.
There you go.
Share with us, please, some numbers. I know you're dying to talk to us about that.
Well, I'm not dying to, but I obviously track all the trophy fish, and I have for years, and I use that obviously in marketing, and the guys want to come catch 30s, and we catch hundreds and hundreds of fish, 28 plus. But the last 2 years, I found something sort of interesting where we were catching a lot of 26s and 27s. And that excited me only for the reason that, in my opinion, they were much more fun to catch than a 30. I mean, they were screaming out line like a tarpon. They would hit like a freight train. And I was thinking to myself, wow, where did all these 26s come from? So now that I knew we were going to be on this program, I did a little research in terms of how old are fish based on their size, certainly in northern Ontario. And I found something that's got to be somewhat close, where they say a 26-inch walleye in northern Ontario is roughly 19 or 20 years old. Okay, keep that in mind, 20 years old, just nice ballpark. Now, the eaters, we typically think of eaters as around 17 inches, right? The fillet is big enough to get a nice chunk. They're still pretty tender meat. Pretty good. Okay, an eater is around 8 years old. Okay, so you got 20 and 8. Wow. If you do the math, that's 12 years, which is almost exactly when I went to 100% catch and release. So those 17-inch eaters, which we were not keeping and eating in 2011 and 2012, they are all 26, and there are hundreds of them. And, that's not scientific analysis. That's just math. And I just did this today. It's like, well, that kind of makes sense. Look at all that. They've all grown up, and now we're catching fish. Couple that with the smaller fish, and, it's a bonanza. Now, the other thing I found was once they hit 29 and a half, at least on my fishery, that's kind of end of life. That's a 28-year-old fish, because what I found was over the last few years, we've averaged maybe 250 fish 28 or 29 inches long, but once you hit 30, it just drops off a mountain. Like instead of 230s, we caught 68 30s, and then we caught 40 31s, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not like those fish go into hiding. My fishermen are very good. I think that's kind of the end of life. A 30-year-old walleye, I mean, that's an ancient fish. But I also thought that was interesting as well. But my first point was, we did catch and release literally 13 years ago, and now we're seeing those 13-inch fish grow up to be really some beautiful monsters.
That's interesting.
That's so cool.
Some interesting numbers.
So cool.
Would Hawk Lake be a good representation of that whole northwestern band of lakes? Could this apply to, say, bigger bodies of water like Lac Seul?
Well, again, I'm not a scientist, but in my opinion, I mean, it's all really based on the food supply. If you got the food supply that can manage a fishery like this, then absolutely. Now, typically a deeper lake will have more of a food supply, because not only do you have, the perch up top, but then you got the ciscos, you got the whitefish, and all the way down to the burbot, which we have all of those. So we've got an amazing fish supply, or fish food source.
Right.
So I don't see why it couldn't. But I'm really not the right person to ask. I'm just telling you the numbers that I've seen. It's exploded. It really has taken off, and it's kind of neat to see.
What's the maximum depth of Hawk Lake? What do you got there for depth?
I have charted 370 feet.
Wow. Okay. So you're definitely got Cisco base or smelt or both or whatever, right? Along with minnows and perch and everything else, I'm assuming. Yeah. Wow.
Sure.
Interesting.
And big whitefish. I've seen whitefishes 10 or 12 pounds.
It's a fascinating lake. And for those folks listening that have no idea what we're talking about, you got to go check out some of the episodes that we produced up there. And not only ours, but I mentioned Al Linder was there a few times. He shot episodes up there.
That's what we first found out.
That's what we first found out.
Where's this?
You got to see what's going on up at this Hawk Lake. It's kind of spooky. I'll be honest with you. When you look at it, you say, "Wait a minute, what's he doing?"
It's kind of an anomaly, isn't it?
What's he doing?
Yeah.
I mean, because there are other well-managed lakes that we're familiar with that have walleye that are not doing quite as well as you are on Hawk Lake. So I think it's a combination of great management. I think it's genetically, these fish that you've got are unique, in my opinion, totally unique. And that might be running right across the board with all enclosed walleye lakes, for all we know. Each gene pool might be totally different that will allow them, if given the opportunity, because what you did is given the opportunity by having a no retention policy. If given the opportunity to feed and lead a normal lifestyle, these fish will just grow and grow and grow. And I think that's part of it as well. But you do have a unique situation up there because, in all fairness to other people who manage their fishery, they don't have total control. One thing is you've got the lake to yourself. You don't have to worry about another operator or two doing different things to the fish than you are. Access to getting boats in there, that is kind of a unique situation as well. Yeah. So I think you're checking off all the boxes with Hawk Lake. It's an extraordinary, and I really want to use the word unique. Certainly, we have never found anything quite that. Even our western BC walleye lake.
That's a bowl.
It's a bowl, but it's unique in that it has no access, it has no pressure, all that stuff. But it's a totally different animal. And it does not have as big a walleye as what Ted has.
Well, we've only fished 1/100th of that lake, right? We go to the there and over there, and then we're done. And we catch a ton of big ones too. But I just, you know what, I think hawk, there is something different about hawk. I don't know what it is. Like we said, all three of us here aren't biologists, but there's definitely something. It's a perfect walleye lake in the sense of, you could say that a perfect walleye lake might not have 300 feet of water or something like that, but why not? You know, maybe it is the perfect walleye because it has that. But in every sense, every time Ted sends you down to a rock pile, down to a bay, around through the narrows and all that, it just opens up and you go, oh my God, we are in. The whole lake is so perfect for walleye. So, I mean, maybe it is the ultimate setup for walleye, between bait, between structure, between depth. Who knows? You know what I mean? And it's just all working together with Ted, and you got a great fishery.
Getting back to the book,
very lucky. Yes.
Getting back to the book, then, Ted, the book that Paul Radomski wrote, authored. Are you disagreeing with? Are you disagreeing with his whole philosophy? Or are you just saying, hey, that's well and good. Maybe that's the majority of lakes can be ruled by those thought processes, but my lake, Hawk Lake, is different. Is that what you're saying?
Am I disagreeing with his entire philosophy? No, absolutely not. I think that a lot of his hard work and analysis is based on lakes that have pressure and we're fishing and have been for decades. And now what do we do to try to save some of these lakes? And I think he's spot on. Absolutely. We've got to try different things. It's not a one size fits all. And all these biologists are trying to do the same thing. I am not disagreeing with any of that at all. I guess what I found is in this unique situation that I have, I just put this experiment into place, and the numbers sort of speak for themselves. I think if you take away all the fishermen, we've got great fisheries all over the place. Where you get into some conundrums is when you add fishermen into the mix, all of a sudden it all goes to hell, and we have to decide how to address it. And it's not one size fits all. Every body of water is different. How hard is it getting fish? What's the bait supply, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So by no means am I disagreeing with anything. In fact, I believe he said that there are different ways to that you can apply a fishery management technique and get different results. And I think that's very smart.
Yeah. Of interest too, you mentioned wherever you have fishermen. First of all, do you have a number that you could share with us? Can you give us an idea of how many human beings would be on your lake in a 1 year period per season?
You mean
Anglers.
Just my fishermen?
Yep.
I book around 1,500 nights, more or less, per summer. So that's 1,500 fishing nights. So let's say that's 400 people at four nights per person. So 300 to 400 people are fishing my lakes in the summer. More or less. That's ballpark.
And the reason I mention that, we sometimes you have to bring it into perspective. Because even maybe, and you'll probably disagree with this, but maybe a number like that, even if the management isn't quite as tight as yours, those fish would do well anyways. We're dealing with lakes down here where they would get, and I'm talking about Lake Scugog as an example, where they would get that kind of pressure in a day.
Yeah, a day or a weekend. Yeah, for sure.
For sure in a weekend, but probably in a day. And lo and behold, we've had to shut that lake down. That lake now is complete. And it used to be a walleye factory. It was, when I was growing up, Lake Scugog was a walleye factory. You could not go near that lake without making contact with a walleye. And but then it's a half hour, maybe 45 minutes away from 6 million people, and so obviously it's got overfished and to the point where they had to shut it down years ago, and it's still shut down. Nothing's changed
because of the pressure. It's the pressure. It's really that simple. And was it Gord Pizer or someone else, who you had on your show, who said catch and release fishing has a mortality rate of 8 to 10%. So just do the math.
Right.
If you've got 400 people a day on a lake like that, even if they're throwing everyone back, they're still killing a lot of fish unbeknownst to them. And just think of the damage that, us fishermen can do, whether we want to do it or know it or not.
It's a great point.
And so basically Hawk Lake, and we keep going back to this magic little piece of water called, Hawk Lake and Hawk Lake Lodge. I think it's the perfect storm. I think it's remote enough from the big population base. It has there's a lack of access for the general public. It has a brilliant manager who controls the fishery, and very little pressure. And I think when you put all of those into it and you stir it all up in a pot, you end up with this crazy, bizarre world. I mean, it's sort of way I can describe it, where you go out there, you're pretty confident that you're going to get close to double-digit walleye pretty much every time out, which doesn't happen in the real world, Ted. I don't know whether you know that or not.
No, trust me, I get it. I realize that we are very blessed. I definitely realize, and I appreciate that.
Hey, Teddy, a question for you. Have you ever been up at the lodge? You probably have, because it's later up there. Have you ever run up in the lodge when the walleye spawn is on, and you're out there with the flashlight at night just looking around and seeing how many fish are on the shores, on the shoals, et cetera, et cetera?
Every spring I'm there when the walleye spawn is on, of course, because we're ripping across the lakes, getting all the out lakes. We have 22 other lakes we got to get to,
right?
And you don't have to be out there at night. I mean, the males are all over those humps and shores, like all over the place. It's pretty neat. Yeah. And then you go out in the evening, and the females creep up there. I mean, no one will believe this, but one person had a 40 to their boat, and I totally believe that. But we saw a fish that we swore was like a massive pike on one of these spawning reefs, and we looked close, and it was a walleye, and that was way upper 30s. And we've also a person actually has caught a 37 out of our lake, so I know they're there. It's a rare fish, but it's neat to see. Like it's like you're in an aquarium,
right?
And the fish are just all over the place and want nothing to do with you, which is fine. You don't want to be catching those fish anyway, because sometimes, based on the ice out, walleye season can open and they're still really haven't spawned yet.
Right.
So you got to be careful. Right. But it's neat to watch in crystal clear water where they're just all over the place, just like you're in a Bass Pro or Cabela's.
Wow. Have you noticed through the years there's better years, or is it always pretty consistent in the spawn?
In terms of numbers?
Yeah, just seeing them, being mesmerized.
It seems pretty consistent. Honestly, we're so slammed with work that we don't sit there for hours on end doing counts like they do in the salmon hatcheries or fisheries. Right. So it seems pretty consistent. And my guides get a kick out of going out and kind of looking at it and taking pictures. And we've gotten the underwater drone out and gone in, which is kind of neat. It's pretty cool.
Ted, you mentioned pike a moment ago. One thing that we, have we ever caught a pike?
I had a question on here. Why have we never caught a northern pike, big or small, on Hawk Lake?
Because he just said something that just went off in my head. We've never made contact with pike there. We know that we've heard of pike living there. But I just wonder, because normally an environment that has pike in it, they tend to dominate quite a bit. In your lake, that's not the case. And I'm just wondering if it's not because of the size of your walleye. Are these big 25, 26, 27-inch walleye that are, obviously there's a ton of them, are they keeping pike in check, do you think?
That's a good question. I mean, that might be part of it. I mean, the other part is we've got so much other food that the pike are going after. I mean, a perch doesn't make it past their 6th birthday. They're done. So the ciscos are everywhere. The pike are eating big whitefish. So I think there's just a buffet out there. Now, if this was just a pike, bass, walleye lake, I think there may be a lot more competition and they would be really going after those walleye. But I haven't really noticed that. Now, we have pike. A big pike for us is over 40, but we catch, maybe a few dozen over 40. Most of them are mid-30s. We have better pike lakes on our sort of out lakes to go fish. For whatever reason, it's better. But we have pike. Most people aren't targeting pike. If you want pike, go to northern Saskatchewan and just northern Manitoba and pair it up.
We interrupt this program to bring you the much anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. This week's code is Laker. All caps, L-A-K-E-R. Laker, aka the lowly old gray lake trout. Just type that in the bonus code section of the contest and receive 100 free entries towards all of our current giveaways. For those of you who aren't entered yet, what are you waiting for? Head over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. And now, back to the episode. Speaking of pike, give us of your recollection, the biggest walleye from your lodge people, or you, pike, and lake trout, let's say. What are the three? And smallmouth. What do you think?
Well, the biggest walleye came out. It was caught not by one of our guests. It was a guest that was here years ago, but they were on their own. That was a 37-inch walleye. Biggest pike I've ever seen is, I think, 48. Wow. Lake trout. I mean, we don't get big lake trout. A big lake trout for us is, a 30-inch lake trout. But they're a lot of fun. You can catch them all summer. Get out with your graph and jig for them in 80 feet of water. It's kind of a blast. You can mix it up.
Yeah. Smallmouth. How big is smallie? The biggest one.
Smallmouth went 8-11.
Oh my God! Oh, you got a mount.
That's very unusual. That's
the mounted one.
Catch 8-pound smallmouth, guys. Slow down. Relax.
We know, buddy. We know. We never have. So
that's what I mean. There's something about that body of water that
walleye, by the way, that Ted's talking about, that 37. That's a 17, 18, at least 18-pound fish, probably, or bigger, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Did they say a weight?
The 37, I think, just went over 19 pounds.
Yeah. So there you go.
Again, not my guest fish, but it was people that had fished the lake before, and they're very secretive, and I appreciate that. But it was a beautiful fish, and the picture was amazing.
My God, that's big. That's just
I think
massive.
There's something in the water, man. I don't care what you say. I think you're putting something in there you're not telling us. It's got to be.
I wish it were that easy.
It's Teddy's big balls dragging in the water because you got the balls to say catch and release only, people. No keeping anything.
All right, we've taken a turn.
You must talk to a lot of. I know you go to the tourism shows and whatnot. You must talk to a lot of your peers about, or maybe not. Do they talk to you about your management practices? Do you get other operators saying, "Hey, Teddy, I keep hearing about this Hawk Lake and Hawk Lake Lodge and how you manage it. Like, is there anything you could tell me that maybe I could use on my lake as well?" Do you get that, or are they pretty much standoffish when it comes to that?
Yeah, Ted likes that question.
That was like 3 questions in one. Couple things. We actually just won the conservation award for Noto for this year, so we're pretty proud of that for our conservation practices.
Congrats, buddy.
When I first started, I was getting a lot of strange looks. Like lodge owners, dude, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. We need shore lunches. My guests will never do this. No way. But now that we're in year 14 or 15, they're more receptive. I think what I've heard is they're just nervous about alienating a part of their clientele that has always caught and kept fish. You can't blame them. And I kind of pissed off a few of my clients who wanted to keep fish and bring them home. So they think they're nervous. And as you just said, Ange, it takes some big balls, or you just got to do it. You got to rip off the Band-Aid and do it. And think about longer term. Not the first couple of years where you're going to lose a little business. Once those fish grow up, I guarantee you're going to get 10 times the business for someone that's going to be able to catch a nice big fish. But that's to each his own. I know people are nervous, and it's not common. But I think people are paying a little more attention now, which is good, because you got to think of this fishery 10 years down the road.
Have you ever had biologists or anybody like that ask you about what you've got in place there?
Honestly, I never have, and that kind of makes me sad.
No.
I think it's kind of a neat case. It's a neat example of something that kind of works.
They should be digging in.
So if you know anybody, send them my way.
Well, I was going to say, if anybody's listening that is even with M&R or anybody such as that, I highly recommend that you at least reach out to this man and ask him some pertinent questions that may help us better manage some of our other fisheries. Because I was just thinking, as you were talking about people being nervous about converting their lodges to total release fishery, could you imagine what would happen over, say, I don't know how many years it would take. Well, how many years did it take? First of all, before I go on, can you bring us back to 14 years ago when you first decided, you woke up one morning and said, yeah, I'm going to do it? How long did it take you to establish yourself?
You mean how long did it take to make the decision, or how long did it take to implement the decision?
Just to implement and see results.
Well, it was implemented instantly. It was yes or no. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You either do it or you don't.
Right.
So we did it right off the back. That was, I'm pretty sure, my first year, which was 2011, my first summer. Okay. We started seeing results within the first 6 years, which makes sense because that means the 17 inches are now 22, 23, 24. Right. So within the first 5 or 6 years, but it was sort of an exponential curve. Once we hit about year 9 or 10, then all of a sudden the big fish were getting bigger and the smaller fish were coming back, and it all flourished almost all at once. The last 3 years, and it was really too bad because we had COVID, like it was just awesome and we were just crushing it. I was just really hoping my guests could experience it, but now they can.
Ted, did you buy the lodge or did you build the lodge? Like, was there somebody there before you and you took it over?
Oh, yeah. The lodge was built, it was built as a private place in the mid-50s. It was turned into a lodge in the mid-80s. I'm the third lodge owner.
Okay,
so the lodge has been in existence since the mid-80s.
Okay, so they had catch and keep and eat and all that stuff. And
yes.
That's why you probably came to that decision of, hey, we should do something different, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, once I caught my first 30, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Let's keep doing it. So honestly, it was kind of a shot in the dark, but I think I hit the bullseye.
You did.
I was going to say, earlier, so can you imagine if, obviously not all, but a large portion of the operators decided, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it too.
You can do it.
And they, for the next 5 or 6 years, went to a total release policy at some of these places. Can you imagine the fishery that we would discover in this part of the world? I mean, it'd be
insane. But I'll tell you what, though, the average clientele out there won't do it because Ted's clientele says, you know what, I want to catch a 26, 27, 32-inch walleye. That's what I'm going up there for. I know I can't have shore lunch, so I'm just going to go there and try and crack a big one or 2 or 3. The majority of clients, as we see in all these other lodges, their favorite part of it is shore lunch, eating them up, and maybe even taking some home with you. You know what I mean? So it'd be a hard one, to take change in all the lodges, that's for sure. So, right?
I'd like to see more of them do it, though, buddy.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
That's for sure.
It can happen. Ted shows you it can happen. Yeah. Right? As long as you got a good Esnagi Lake. It's a perfect lake. Well, they have got a decent catch and release policy in there now. Yeah. Right? Lodge 88 does, and I'm sure Marmac
didn't used to have.
No, they didn't. So they've taken a step forward, and you know what? It's going to take some time. You watch. That lake's going to start cracking some big ones again, a lot of big ones again very soon.
Weather changes. Are you concerned at all about Hawk
Lake? Like global warming or something this weekend?
Obviously, overall, we've had some pretty crazy weather patterns in this part of the world anyways. I don't know about up there in northwestern Ontario, but if you have noticed weather changes, even if it's 2 or 3 degrees, is there any concern from your part that it may at some point affect your fishery?
Well, of course, there's always concern, and here's where I am out of my element. I certainly am not a biologist, and how that's going to affect the water conditions and concentrated oxygen levels, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, I haven't really seen any changes. It's a deep lake, so there's plenty of cool water. Right. The bait fish are, can go below that thermocline for sure, or certainly around that thermocline, where there's a high concentration of oxygen just above it. I don't think it's an issue, but I really wouldn't want to be here in 40 years. I think our next generation is going to have a reckoning to do, and it's kind of sad in my opinion. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. Good point.
Teddy, have you ever, speaking of weather, have you or any of your guides or any of your friends or whatever ever ice fished on Hawk Lake?
Wow.
Honestly, one time I got up there in like late April, we still had a foot of ice, and I ice fished. And I guess they call it ice drinking up there, where you just dig a hole and look at the hole the whole time. It really didn't appeal to me all that much. But I guess if there's nothing else to do in the middle of nowhere, I could see where it's fun. You get a couch, you get your TV, your food, you do a little fishing. So the quick answer is no. But if I lived half an hour from there, I'd be out there ice fishing every weekend. Absolutely. Right. I think that'd be, because now there's no one on the lakes for the most part. I bet you there's some monsters coming up, especially the burbot too. I guess the burbot fishing gets really good in the winter. Yeah, it does. That's what all my guides tell me. So that would be pretty fun.
Quickly, before we let you go, give folks an idea of Hawk Lake Lodge. What are they apt to expect when they come up there? What do you offer that they need to know about?
Well, I mean, unlike many of other places where we're very high end, we're pricey, but with that price comes service. You know, it's open bar with wine cellars, and every cabin has a private hot tub. We only have 20 to 25 people a night. There are more staff than we actually have people. We have, 18 to 19 staff. It's top notch. We have a cordon bleu chef. We've got 22 private lakes. So every day you're the only boat on that water, which is pretty cool. You get to mix it up. We went in a different direction to be higher end, and that coupled with the fishing, which has sort of exploded, it's been fishing nirvana, that's for sure.
I told a person one time that asked me about it, the best way I could describe it to him was, think of this as the high-end cruise ships of fishing lodges. He said, what do you mean? I said, just think about that. Open bar, happy hour, hot tubs, all the wonderful amenities that you think of a cruise ship, and throw in a bonus that you can go out at any time during your stay and probably are in a real good position to land yourself a double-digit walleye every time out.
So true.
That's what I see it as, a cruise ship. The food is the same as being on a cruise ship. So
one of the best.
And just to be clear, we're not just a walleye fishing. We're actually got famous for being a smallmouth.
Oh my God, their smallmouth fishery is
smallmouth fishing is off the charts.
Smallmouth
so
fishing
most
is much
people
easier.
go smallmouth fishing and then catch 30s at night.
Yeah.
One thing I'm intrigued about, and before I hang it up, I'm going to come up to Hawk Lake Lodge and just for smallmouth bass, because I think we talked about it on this program last time you were here. One evening when we were coming back from the other part of the lake walleye fishing, we came through the Narrows, and just as we turned to come towards the lodge, off to the left-hand side, there's a little point, and we saw the biggest school of smallmouth on the surface thrashing around. You could tell they were smallmouth because most of the time they were out of the water, and you could see that black silhouette. And they were just thrashing at something.
Cisco, probably Cisco.
And then I asked you about it, and that's what you said. That happens. Oh yeah, that happens there every night. It
happens every night. It's a blast.
I want to come back there and throw some twitch baits and just have a blast. Some topwater baits, any of that stuff.
Oh my
It'd be
God!
a riot.
Could you imagine? Imagine! Oh my God!
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that
come up in June.
Cool.
Actually, Al Linder is coming up in this June. We're actually finalizing his dates right now. So it'd be kind of cool to have these two old gentlemen in the lodge at the same time.
Oh, you're talking about the Linders, not us. Old.
Oh no, not you. No, not you.
All right. Anyways, Ted, always a pleasure having you on, my friend. It's a blast. Thank you for being our in-house book reviewer and reviewing the walleye, a beautiful fish of the dark for us.
Me and Oprah.
You and Oprah, yeah. There you go. It's it. And go Bruins, go! It's not our year. If anybody, I'd rather have you win than anybody else. So there you go.
Wow,
okay. Guys, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
See you, Teddy.
Ted Putnam, Hawk Lake Lodge, Hawk Lake, Ontario, walleye mecca.
I was going to say there, one of my favorite parts of Hawk Lake Lodge is at the end of the day, a fishing day. Happy hour, you're having a drink on the deck, and you're having a nice cigar with that drink on the deck before supper, talking to everybody else's fish stories. It honestly gets no better, people.
And they all have a great fish story, and you know that they're not lying to you.
You got a 29, and you don't have the biggest fish of the day. You're thinking, oh, no, who's going to beat me now?
It was a great operation. It's not for everybody. It is, as Ted just mentioned, it is high end.
Yep.
And when you look at those prices, you say, ouch, but once in a lifetime, you deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Bucket lister.
No question about it. What else we got? It's the time to sign off. I want to remind everybody once again, fishingcanada.com, the gateway, the portal to your next fishing adventure, is loaded with all kinds of goodies that we're giving away.
New contest starting up. It's already going.
I don't know if I can throw this out there, but I'm going to throw it out there. I heard that we are soon going to have Princecraft boat motor and Mercury boat motor trailer and Mercury Princecraft products giving away.
I'm pretty sure.
I heard this.
I'm pretty sure we have at least one of those. At least one of those going on there. So there may be more than one.
There is.
You never know. You never know.
There is. There's a couple of them for sure.
Woo!
Also, the store. I mean, hey.
Hey.
Look at.
Hey now.
Look what I'm talking about here.
Even Dean's got it on.
Even
over there.
Dean, the dancing machine.
Vova doesn't.
No, he doesn't participate in that. So Vova's on his own there.
Well, he's very stylish. He's like European stylish, right? We have to get a European cut Fish in Canada Outdoor Journal swag.
I think we should have Vova on the show.
On the Fish in Canada show or the Outdoor Journal radio podcast?
I think we should have him on this radio podcast platform first, and then
put him on the show.
Then I think he should jump in front of the camera.
He'll tell you that you're going to have to shoot it. You know that you're going to have to get that Sony camera all working to the perfection too, right? Not to. But this just came. Skills,
right?
This
just came to mind. I just had a meeting, as you know, downtown with a professional today.
Person, yes.
And when it was all said and done, I said, by the way, if you ever want to go, and he doesn't know me from Adam, just so that you know, okay. And I said, if you ever want to go fishing, I can hook you up. He's fishing. What would I want to do that for? He says, I'm a vegetarian. I said, okay.
Wow.
Okay, so you're a vegetarian.
Okay.
I said, so you're a vegetarian. What does that have to do with fishing? You can't go out and fish without consuming? He says, you guys do that? Like he was completely like he gave me this face. Says, you guys actually do that?
So he was literally clueless to that going on in this world.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the reason I think it would be interesting to have Vova on the Fish in Canada show is because it would be an interesting point of view to find out what goes through his mind.
Well, I know Vova was very excited when his first time in BC. I remember him trying to catch fish, and
he was fishing.
He was fishing.
I've seen him with the
yeah.
So
he's definitely let's try it out. So
Vova's our cameraman. For those of you who don't know, both here on this show and the Fish in Canada show. And with that in mind, I think it's time we signed off, Mr. Bowman. Unless you have something else that you want to throw out
No,
there?
I think we're good. We did everything, .com and all that stuff.
On behalf of the entire Outdoor Journal Radio podcast team, Bova.
Come on now.
Nick, who is somewhere. Dean and Taylor back to the board. Mr. Bowman. I'm Angelo Viola. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll talk to you next time.